Hey everyone, welcome to the first devlog for an RTS game that I'm developing for mobile. I've wanted to develop an RTS game for quite some time now. I even bought a RTS BattleKit asset from the asset store a couple years ago, but did not have the time to work on it until recently. The game will hopefully have an engaging campaign mode and online multiplayer as well, if time allows. And since I'm not sure the direction this game will take regarding campaign story mode, for now I'm just calling it a no-name RTS game. So I loaded up the trusty Unity editor, created a new project and named it, you guessed it, the no-name RTS. I decided to go with the simple 3D project rather than universal render pipeline for two reasons. First, I have no experience with creating games using URP, and I'd rather not waste time tinkering around with all the settings. That's something I can do later on. And the second reason being I'm using a couple asset packs and I'm not sure if those assets work with URP. At the early stage of the project, I don't want to waste too much time with tinkering around with options and look and feel. I'd rather spend this time on the core mechanics and making the core gameplay. Before we can have a battle, we need to have a battleground for our level. And rather than using cubes of varying dimensions for the level, which I usually do at the prototyping stage, I'm gonna go with Unity's terrain system this time. Mostly because it'll give me some options and hopefully I'll learn level design as well this time. With the terrain, I'm not very sure if at this stage, at this early in the game, if it's going to be a portrait or a landscape orientation. That's something I have to decide later on, I guess. But at this stage, I'm just going to go ahead and start generating the battleground. Level generation is the part of the process that I dislike the most. The reason is being it just takes too much time from the full development of the game. Time that I can spend on the core mechanics, time that I can spend on coding. But what happens is I start the terrain generation, I start the level generation, I make a few changes, and the final product still looks ugly no matter how much time I spend on it. A huge part of this is because of my lack of skills in level generation. And the reason I'm working on Unity's terrain system this time rather than importing some pre-built assets that I usually do is maybe in this project I learn how to make a decent looking terrain. But although I said I won't spend too much time on it this time, like always I spent way too much time than what I intended, that was initially planned. And well, I'm still not happy with the final product looks like, but this will have to do for now. I'll spare you the boring process of constantly changing my terrain, and I sped up this part of the video. And after this we can work on adding models and characters to the game. And after all that work, this is what the terrain looks like. Now that the terrain is there, the player base and the enemy base are also set, it's time to add characters to the game. characters will at this stage just basically run towards the enemy base, and we'll focus on combat later on. I'm using an asset pack here for the models. The asset pack that I'm using is I think Cinti Store's Simple Military, the cartoon assets. The reason I chose this one is first and foremost I had bought it last year and I wanted to use it in a game somehow. And secondly, it's a good fit for the game as it has all these great models, weapons, vehicles, and all the models are nicely animated. To handle movement of our character, rather than writing a custom script that handles navigation and movement or use an external pathfinding tool, I'm just going to rely on Unity's navigation system and bake a nav mesh for our terrain, adjust the heights to such a level that our characters are limited to the flat region or to the center of the battleground. The next step is to add movement to our character. This is done by writing a simple character movement script and attaching a navmesh agent. The character script and the navmesh agent together will handle all the movement, such as when to run, when to walk, when to stop, when to attack, which animations to use for each. But at this stage, I just want it to run towards the enemy base. So the navigation system seems to be working. When I press play, all characters turn towards the enemy base and start running towards the enemy base, which is great. So that's working. Well, they're obviously not supposed to run into the base, they're supposed to stop outside and shoot at it. That's something I need to put into the character controller script. The final task for this devlog was to have a character deploying system or a character manager that would allow me to deploy troops wherever I clicked. And with that, I think that is the end of this devlog, and that's the progress so far. Thanks a lot for watching, and hope to catch you in the next one. Cheers.